Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Doubleheader Podcast. This is episode 1 of the show, and you're all new guests. My name is Mahal. Some of you may know me from the On the Diamond Into the Deep podcast. That is a podcast that focuses on the happenings of Seattle Mariners baseball. This show is a project that's going to focus more on Major League Baseball as a whole, and we'll also look at the sport of soccer from the English perspective of football and the American perspective of soccer in MLS. So we're going to talk about English Premier League, Major League Baseball, and MLS for the most part. Obviously, as a Seattle Mariners fan, I will be talking about Major League Baseball from that lens. I'm a Seattle Sounders fan, so MLS will be from that lens. And then in terms of the English Premier League, I am a Manchester United fan, so we will be looking at the Prem from that sort of perspective. On today's episode, it is the World Series, so we're going to start with the World Series. We're going to start with Trey Yesavages. We'll then get into some stuff about the English Premier League, including predictions for this weekend, and then we'll switch into gear for MLS, and we'll talk about this weekend in MLS and the second match of round 1 of the MLS playoffs. And I'm also going to talk briefly about Dean Smith's comments on Tuesday at postgame, and then we'll talk about the format a little bit for MLS as well. So, without further ado, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 1 of the Doubleheader Podcast. So, let's get into it. Like I said a few moments ago, we're going to start with the World Series, and the Blue Jays have taken a 3-2 lead in the World Series and are now 1 win away from winning the World Series for the first time since the early 90s. It would be their 3rd overall. The Dodgers still looking for their back-to-back World Series rings, but they got to get their offense to step it up, and they got to get pitching to sort of lock it down, because this Blue Jays offense right now seems a little bit inevitable, and they're scoring in all the right ways. To begin, I do want to just talk about Game 3, because that is the worst baseball game I have ever watched. Obviously, we all know it went 18 innings. It is tied for the record of longest World Series game in Major League Baseball history, which, absurd, ridiculous, all of that. It was a fantastic game to watch. I stayed up. It ended at almost midnight Pacific time, my time, and it was almost 3 a.m. in Toronto, where one of the home teams is from, obviously. So credit to Toronto fans who stayed up. I know I wouldn't be able to sleep till that's over. I would have probably had to pop a coffee at the beginning of extra innings. But credit to those who didn't, to those who stayed up, just to lose on a Freddie Freeman walk-off homer. And it's interesting. Obviously, in the ALCS as a Mariners fan, I saw all the stats about the Blue Jays and them scoring 5+ runs and their record, how much better it is when they score 5+ runs. But you can see it if you just watch them play games in this postseason. And you can see why they were successful this year. Because that offense feels inevitable. There's not a single patch in that lineup where you're like, oh, I feel like this is a free out. I feel like I can get these 2-3 guys all out in a row. There's no part of their lineup that's like that. It feels like every single guy in that lineup puts up a difficult at-bat, gets on base, can put the ball in play, put their bat on the ball, can hit a double at any given time, can hit a homer really at any given time, especially as a Mariners fan now. I got Andres Jimenez haunting my dreams. But obviously they have a guy also in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. who is having one of the best postseasons of all time. I believe he's at 7 home runs now. And the guy is unreal. The postseason that guy is putting up is ridiculous. And if you want to just talk about the stats, he's actually at 8 home runs now. The guy's hitting .415 with 8 home runs, 15 RBIs, and an OPS over 1,300. Absurd stuff from that guy. And he's carrying the Blue Jays to what looks like it might end up being a World Series championship. And by no means is this series over. Tomorrow's Game 6. Dodgers have their ace, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, on the mound. He's been fantastic. 2 straight complete games, which, by the way, that's got to be up there for some of the better postseason performances of all time. He's doing unheard of stuff, really, it feels like. throwing one complete game in the postseason these days, in this version of baseball, feels unreal, unexpected, impossible. Doing it 2 straight games? That's a whole nother world of wild from that guy. And he plays into why people want the Dodgers to lose this series and why people think that there's not going to be a season in 2027 and why people might not like the Dodgers, myself included in some respects. Because he's a Dodger and he's on a fat contract, and obviously their payroll is at the highest in baseball, but it's also there and should be higher due to Ohtani's deferrals. And I think the thing that people don't understand when they talk about not liking the Dodgers is it's the deferrals that people don't like. It's the fact that Shohei Ohtani is being paid $2 million a season as the greatest player in baseball history. I mean, the guy got on base 9 times in a singular game. And he was on the mound, and he got lit up a little bit. But, I mean, he is unreal. And you can't say, oh, well, he's not the greatest player of all time because, yes, he can throw, or he can pitch and he can hit, but he's not that good of a pitcher. Yes, he is. Like, yeah, he is. If you want just this postseason stats, you're like, well, he had a bad start in the World Series. The dude's got an ERA of 3.50 in the World Series in 18 innings. He has 25 Ks and an 0.89 whip. In his career, his ERA is 3. He's not only an elite hitter, he's a top-line starter. He is an unbelievable talent. He's the greatest player of all time, no question in my mind. And he's doing it now on the brightest stage in the World Series at Dodger Stadium with Joe Davis calling his games. And you're like, why does that matter? It doesn't, but I wanted to throw that in. Because as an aspiring commentator myself, it's fun to talk about commentators. But back to Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The performances he's throwing on the mound makes you feel confident that the Dodgers are going to win Game 6 and you're going to get a Game 7 in this World Series. So if you're talking about predictions, I guess you can kind of gather where I'm going. Dodgers take Game 6, Game 7. Anything can happen in Game 7. And typically, when I look at Game 7s, I look at the star players of each team looking to shine. And I look at the Blue Jays lineup. And for me, this is why I was like, are the Blue Jays really that good? Are they going to be able to go to the World Series, win the World Series? And I was like, I don't really think so because they don't have any stars. But they got a lot of guys in that lineup that can do damage, that can do good things. But you look at that lineup and true stars that are going to be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark, in my opinion, in a Game 7. I look at one guy. It's Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now, this guy could take over a Game 7 of the World Series. He obviously could. And he's taken over games already this series, this postseason, like I said. But I look at the Dodgers lineup and Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. That's 3 names at the top of their lineup that I'm like, those are stars. Can those guys do what they know how to do? Can Mookie Betts be the guy that he has been in his career instead of the guy that he's been this postseason and that he was this season? Can Freddie Freeman have more clutch moments in him? He obviously had the one last year in Game 1. He obviously had the Game 3 clutch this season in the World Series. But in Game 5, Betts, Freeman, a combined 0 for 7 with 5 strikeouts. If you throw Ohtani into that, a combined 0 for 11 with 6 strikeouts. Now, that was facing the next guy I want to talk about, Trey Yesavages, who has been savage, to say the least. This guy's been unreal in the postseason. 39 strikeouts in 26 innings. He has more starts now in the postseason than he had at AAA. And some people are going to be like, well, that doesn't really matter because elite starting pitching prospects don't really throw at AAA. And like, yeah, but he's also in his rookie year and he's got 5 postseason starts. He has more postseason starts than he has regular season starts in his career. And he's been unbelievable in the postseason. You're talking about a whip of basically one with 39 Ks in 26 innings. This is elite stuff from Trey Yesavages, a guy that has an elite pitch in the splitter, and he had a slider last night that was working like a lot of sliders sometimes don't. His slider was working better than it normally does. If you want to talk about swings and whiffs and all that jazz, on the slider last night, 29 swings, 7 called strikes. If you want to talk about the split, 10 swings, 8 called strikes. He was getting huge whiffs on both of those pitches, to a 48% whiff rate on the slider and a 70% whiff rate on the splitter. In terms of whiffs, hitters whiffed on 14 of 29 swings against the slider and 7 of 10 swings against the splitter. And that splitter is his best pitch. Now, all of this said, he's a little bit volatile because if he doesn't have one of that splitter or that slider, he's going to likely struggle more because his fastball, while good, isn't an elite fastball by any means. It's a good fastball, but not an elite fastball. It's only 94.7 miles an hour. That said, his release point that's so far above his head, such a vertical release point, makes it difficult to pick up that fastball and makes it play up. So if you're looking at that arsenal, it's a fastball that plays up. It's a splitter that is devastating and that produces tons of whiff. And then it's a slider that when it's at its best, works similar to the splitter where it's breaking vertically down and it's getting tons of whiffs. That slider almost feels like it's another version of the splitter. If you want to talk about horizontal break, the slider averaging just 5 inches of horizontal run. The splitter averages 13 inches of horizontal run. Vertical-wise, slider has less vertical break, with averaging 4 inches of vertical break, and the splitter averages 9. You want to talk about drop. So we're talking about induced vertical break just now. If you want to talk about drop, which includes gravity on top of that, slider averages 30 inches of drop. The split, 29 inches of drop. So what you can understand I'm getting at is that slider and that splitter play sort of similarly with their movement profiles. But the slider is 5-6 miles an hour faster than that splitter is. And the splitter looks a little bit more like a fastball than the slider does. But all of his pitches tunnel really well, and they allow him to do the stuff he's doing, where he's putting up 7 innings, giving up just 3 hits and a singular run on a solo homer, with 12 strikeouts in Game 5 of the World Series. And Game 5 sometimes is the most important game. So you want to talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto all you want, and you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. But Trey Yesavages, and I don't like the Blue Jays by any means, but Trey Yesavages, the stuff he's doing is truly ridiculous stuff. It's unheard of stuff. Not only from starting pitchers in general, but especially a rookie. And that's where the unheard of stuff comes from. You do not see rookies put up numbers like this during the regular season, let alone a intense, brutal environment like the postseason is. And he's doing it at Dodger freaking Stadium against the Dodgers super team lineup that like that said isn't hitting to its greatest capabilities right now. I mean, Will Smith has an OPS over 700 in the postseason, as does Mookie Betts, as does Tom Edman, as does Max Muncy. But that's still a very good lineup with incredible names. That's Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. And then your catcher is Will Smith. That's one of the best catchers of the generation. The greatest player of all time. One of the best first basemen of all time. That's one of the best pure hitters of this time. And then Mookie Betts, which I don't even know what position he plays, but he's a dog. And none of them are having the best postseasons, but he's still doing it to that lineup, and he's doing it with that arsenal, and he looks unreal. And I don't want to talk too much about Trey Yesavages, but the question I'm going to pose is that splitter the best pitch in baseball? I don't think so. I don't think his is necessarily, but I think a good split might be the best pitch in baseball. It's really hard to hit. It's an even better version of a good changeup, and a good changeup is one of the best pitches in baseball. But if you can locate a splitter that breaks a lot and breaks late, as Yesavages does, that's a really good weapon to have, and it's paying dividends for him already in just his 8th career start, and that start in the World Series. Moving on, let's talk about the English Premier League. So, Manchester United fan here. 3 straight wins. Can United make it 4? What we're going to do in this brief segment is we're just going to go through each game of match week 10, and we're going to predict our winners of each of those games. We'll talk about the table very briefly, but I guess without further ado, shall we get into it? So first game, we're talking about the 8 o'clock hour Pacific time on Saturday, November 1st. This is the morning after Halloween. Some people aren't going to be up, to say the least, for that game, for these games. But Brighton versus Leeds, this is going to be a good matchup. I actually think this is going to be kind of a good game. Not going to lie. I think Brighton does pull away and win this game, but Leeds are a good side. If you're talking about how many points separate these two teams right now, it's just a 1-point difference between the two teams. And Leeds won their last match. Brighton obviously lost their last match to United. But these are two teams, and I think Brighton, coming off a loss, is going to be wanting to win this game even more than they already would have. And I'm going to give that win to Brighton. Let's go 2-1 win for Brighton. Next match, Arsenal versus Burnley. Look, I don't think there's much to say about this game. I think we all know Arsenal's winning this game. They're going to stay top of the table, obviously. They are going to, no matter what happens. Bournemouth can't top them, than can any other team. And the fact that Bournemouth is in second place right now is a little bit ridiculous, but credit to them, you know? I don't want to hate on Bournemouth. If they want to do their stuff, they can do their stuff. Third match of the day, Crystal Palace, Brentford. These are all at 8 o'clock hours still. Another good game. I think Crystal Palace will pull away with this game. Brentford has struggled a little bit this year, as has Crystal Palace, but these are two teams right next to each other in the table. It's going to be a good match. And I expect Crystal Palace to win that game. I think Crystal Palace is a little bit better of a side, but Brentford is a good side. They're dangerous. You could also see a draw very easily in this game. Continuing on, Fulham Wolves. This has got to be the most irrelevant game of the day. I will give that win to Wolves, though. I think that they're going to get one. They've struggled so much this year. And Fulham are 3 points clear of relegation zone right now. I think that Wolves get their first win of the season, and Fulham drop another game. They drop their 5th in a row. And I think that's all you really want to say about this. The relegation type of battle game, this could be a type of game that ends up being pretty crucial come the end of April, and when the season's over. Next match, my club, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest. I think United beat Forest. United have looked really good. There's not much to say, but Ruben Amorim has looked solid. He's made changes. The team has looked good. He's gotten Casemiro to look a lot younger. Brian Mbeumo is a fantastic player. I didn't know much about him coming into the year, but I mean, just he's a good player. And he's shown that bringing in Premier League proven talents for a team that just needs guys to show up and make a difference right away sometimes is the move to do it, because a guy that's done it in the Premier League is more likely to continue doing it in the Premier League than a young guy that you don't really know what he's going to bring, like a Rasmus Højlund type of guy. It's the same thing with Matthias Cunha, a guy that came from Wolves, a guy that a little bit he's proven as well. He proved that he can score goals, that he can make a difference, that he can be a good player. And you've seen what him being gone from Wolves, how that has already changed Wolves' season. So those two guys up front, alongside Benjamin Šeško, have been great players for United, great signings. It was a good summer transfer window. Obviously, the club needs more. They need another midfielder. They need another fullback, especially a guy that I think probably a guy that could play left wing back. Ahmad has looked solid on the right wing back flank, but a guy that on that left flank can press a little bit more. A guy that's not Diego Dallo. And maybe that guy's going to be more of Luke Shaw when Lisandro Martinez comes back. And we're not even getting into that defensive unit for United. But obviously there's more work to do for this United side, but they are a very good club. That they've shown that over the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, especially the past 3 weeks. And I think they continue, and I think they get their 4th straight win here against Nottingham Forest. Match of the weekend, probably match of the weekend, Chelsea versus Spurs. Spurs have been a better side so far this season. I think they will continue to show that. I do think Spurs will come away victorious in this game, but I think it's also highly possible you see a draw in this match. I think this is going to be a good match. I don't see Chelsea winning this match. They've got some injuries that have allowed them to struggle as the way they have. And I expect them to break out of it at some point because their roster is too talented to do so. But I don't think this is the match where they do it, unfortunately, for Blues fans. Liverpool versus Villa. Villa have been good again this year. They've had a good start to the year. These two teams tied right now for 7th place on points. So obviously this could make a difference in terms of where each team is. And Liverpool, that's a really good roster. You have to expect, again, similar to Chelsea, that they're going to break out of this difficult spell that they've had. Will it be against a solid Villa side? I tend to think probably not. I tend to lean draw probably in this match, but this is a game that I probably will want to watch at least some of. And at the very least, if I'm busy, come back and watch the highlights, watch parts of that game, because it will be definitely an interesting game to see how Liverpool look. Arne Slot seems to be in a little bit of hot water in terms of with Liverpool fans. I don't think he's by no means going to get fired or sacked, but he does need to pick up form, and Liverpool do need to pick up form if they want to save the season. And that starts, I think, with this Aston Villa matchup. Show that you can beat a team that's around you that you probably should beat. In terms of just on paper, you should beat that team. So go and prove that if you're Liverpool. Newcastle, West Ham. Newcastle, they're going to win this game. I have no doubt in my mind that Newcastle will win this game. Newcastle are a good side. They've struggled a tiny bit to start this year, but they've picked up 4 more as of late, and I expect them to pick up another 3 points. City versus Bournemouth. This is a really interesting game. Bournemouth in 2nd place, and City have struggled so far this year. It's hard for me to pick Bournemouth because of what they've done in recent history. That said, City have struggled a lot to start this year. Pep Guardiola doesn't look like he's been able to put together the same type of squad that he's put together year in, year out for the past near decade. If I had to pick, it's hard to pick against City, and I don't want to pick a draw, but I think I will take Bournemouth. I think the table right now shows that Bournemouth should win this game. Does their roster necessarily prove that? I don't know, but they've played good football, and I think they will continue to do so against Manchester City. Final game of the week, Sunderland versus Everton. Sunderland, another team that's had a great start to the year. Everton has struggled quite a bit more. I do think that Sunderland continue their winning ways, and they win another match, pick up another 3 points, this time against Everton. So again, if you just want to go through who I think is going to win, Brighton, Arsenal, Palace, I'm going to go Wolves, United, Spurs, I'm going to go Villa, Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Sunderland. We'll see what happens during the week. We'll see what happens during the matches. But we can all hope that that's what's happening. Continuing on, final talking point for the day. We're talking MLS. Obviously, we had the first, I don't want to say round of games. And maybe this is where I want to start. Having a 3-game series in soccer has got to be the most American MLS thing I've ever seen. My opinion, now this might be unpopular or whatever, but this has got to be changed. Like, how are we playing 3 games in the first round of the MLS Cup Playoffs? It's the wild card round. Or it's not the wild card round. It's round 1. Like, why is it a best of 3? There's no reason this needs to be the best of 3. The conference semifinals aren't a best of 3. The conference finals aren't a best of 3. MLS Cup's not a best of 3. Why do you have a best of 3? If you want to do multiple games, just do a 2-game series with goal differential. And then you just take out the penalty kicks as well. Why do I want penalty kicks in match 1? And honestly, I don't think it should be multiple games in general. And this is my problem with MLS in general, is it often feels like you're just grabbing for money. Like, you're just trying to get more ticket sales, more jersey sales, more sales in stadium, all this jazz, trying to get more games on TV. It's just unnecessary. Do a 2-game series in round 1. You could do a 2-game series in the semifinals even, and I'd be fine with it. Now, I don't think MLS Cup or the conference final should be at 2 games, but anything before that, it can be 2 games. But it shouldn't be more than 2 games. It really shouldn't. That said, more soccer for me to watch, and I hope some of these series go to a Game 3 because that would be entertaining. And I hope that, I don't know exactly if the format allows for this, but I hope that if it's a Game 3 and it goes to extra time, that game goes to overtime instead of straight PKs. And you don't need to have the away goals thing in a 2-game series format. You have it be goal diff, or you have the goals add up. And if it's tied with the goals added up, then you go to overtime and you go to PKs as if they tied that final game. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't know why they're overcomplicating it. That said, reviewing this first week, Miami doing what Miami does, they win. Here's our first PKs. Philadelphia beat Chicago on PKs, and it was a 2-2 match. Like, why can't it be 2-2 heading into another game? And part of the problem was like, oh, but I don't know where home field advantage is. Well, let the team with the higher seed choose which game they want at home, game 1 or game 2. I think it would be game 2 probably, because then the game that truly matters the most is at home. And if you're a good team, you expect your team to be able to get a good result on the road. Next match, this was lopsided. 3-0 Vancouver over Dallas. This is going to end in 2 games, I think, pretty easily. San Diego, Portland. San Diego wins that. I expect this also probably to end in 2 matches. The fact that Philadelphia, Chicago is so close is a little bit surprising, especially at home for Philadelphia. Do I think the Chicago Fire can come back and send this to Game 3? I tend to think probably not, but I do think it's possible. Miami, I think, also is going to win at home in the second game, and they're going to close out their first round and not have to worry about a Game 3. Cincinnati, Columbus, this is a fantastic game. I did watch part of this game. I think this is going to go to a Game 3. I think Columbus will come back at home and win the match. Cincinnati will have to go back home and win the Game 3. Minnesota, Seattle. Minnesota wins in PKs. In Minnesota, your play style is so goofy. That's all I got to say as a Sounders fan. You just sit back like you're Jose Mourinho, but you don't even really attack. You just invite pressure, and you get all these lucky bounces. I think Seattle's going to win Game 2. I think it's going to go to Game 3. I hope Seattle continues to win there. But if we get another game of penalties, like, this format is a joke. It really is. Next, NYCFC Charlotte. This is a game that will continue on Saturday. It's the first of the games on Saturday. NYCFC did come out victorious, and this is where comments by Dean Smith were made. And before I get into LAFC, Austin FC, I guess, let's talk about Dean Smith's comments, where he was like, why are we playing a playoff game on Tuesday, basically? And Mr. Dean Smith, okay, you want the exact quote? So he said, quote, by the way, MLS, thanks very much for a Tuesday night game. That was very nice of them. That was very nice of them. So that was a bit disappointing to be on a Tuesday night. The weather wasn't great. There were no games Saturday. But now we have to go to New York and get a result there, which is not beyond us by any means, because that was a game of two halves. We saw in the second half what we can actually do. Now, I understand where Dean Smith's coming from. Look, like, it's a work night. There's going to be less fans there maybe, but you've still got like 30K fans in that stadium. And if you can't do it on a cold night at home, where are you going to be able to do it? Look, a Champions League match day is on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. Are you complaining about a Champions League match day being on a Tuesday? I understand it's different because there's Premier League matches or La Liga matches or Serie A matches or Ligue 1 matches or Bundesliga matches on the weekends. So they have to play 2 games a week. But Dean Smith, like what are we doing? Like, why? What's the point of complaining about that? If you had won, you wouldn't be complaining about that. It's a playoff match. Your team should be up for it on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night. I don't think there's any reason to complain about it. It's just an unnecessary comment. You're making excuses for your club. And I hope they go to NYCFC and they drop the match. But these are 2 very good clubs that are matched up very good against each other. It's the 4 versus the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, Charlotte probably should win this. They do have a guy by the name of Wilfried Zaha. But the comments make you just want NYCFC to win. Because it's unnecessary as a manager to make those comments. It's unnecessary to do so. But he did it. It's in the past now. They have to go now on Saturday and play at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time at Yankee Stadium. Like, would you rather play at Yankee Stadium on a Tuesday or a Saturday? I'm thinking he'd probably say Tuesday, but it's a Saturday. Is he going to complain about that too? You never know. But that game is the first game of the second set of games. The final game from the first set of games, LAFC, Austin FC. LAFC won that game 2-1. I think they will probably pull out against Austin in Austin and win the second match. And I think that will be one of the few that doesn't go to a game 3. So in terms of games that I think will go to a game 3, I do think Charlotte, NYCFC will. I think Seattle, Minnesota will. I think Columbus, Cincinnati will. I think Philadelphia, Chicago, I don't think they will. How many do I think really will? I think three of the games will. I think Seattle, Minnesota will, Cincinnati, Columbus will, and Charlotte, NYCFC will. Other than that, I think it's going to be a lot of just 2-game series. Wrap it up. Yeah. Because Dallas ain't going to do it. I don't think Portland's going to be able to do it. Don't think Austin's going to be able to do it. Don't think Nashville's going to be able to do it. Don't think Chicago's going to be able to do it. Yeah, so I think we'll get 3 game 3s. And that in itself will be fun. Like I said, I don't love the format, but it is what it is. You got to deal with it. And then hopefully we'll have Seattle to talk about in the next round in the conference semifinals. But that's all for now. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 1 of the Doubleheader podcast. I am on Instagram at DoubleheaderPod. You can follow my other podcast, On the Diamond is the Deep podcast. If you want more baseball, specifically Mariners talk, that is at Diamond on Deep on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that jazz. I will be creating more socials for the Doubleheader Pod. It'll be at Doubleheader Pod, hopefully, on everything, but we'll confirm that next episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been the first episode of the Doubleheader Podcast. As always, I am Mahal, signing off.